مرحبا بكم في جامعتنا التي تجعل التميز ليس مجرد كلمة بل أسلوب حياة. جامعتنا متفوقة بأركانها القوية، وليس فقط بمبانيها وهندسها المعمارية الرائعة. وفي هذه الجامعة يظهر التميز في عملية الاعتماد الأكاديمي للجامعة، وكذلك في اعتماد شعبها الدراسية. تمتد شبكتنا التعاونية الواسعة نوافذ العالم، مما يفتح لطلابنا فرص الأعمال. وفي هذه الجامعة تزدهر الإنجازات الأكاديمية وغير الأكاديمية، مما يخلق قادة المستقبل. نحن نستثمر في التعليم مدرسين وموظفين لخلق مجتمع متميز. تتجاوز أبحاثنا العلمية الحدود الجغرافية لدول العالم، حيث تحظى منشوراتنا بالاعتراف والاستشهاد بها في جميع أنحاء العالم، وهو دليل على التزامنا بتطوير المعرفة. ولا نتوقف عند هذا الحد. جامعتنا تتطور وتدعمها مراكز الأعمال التي تعتبر الداعم الأساسي لتطورنا. استراتيجيتنا واضحة: بناء القدرات وتعزيز المؤسسات وتوسيع الشبكات. لأن العظمة والازدهار لا تتحقق بالصدفة بل بالتصميم. مرحبا بكم في جامعتنا التي تجعل التميز ليس مجرد كلمة بل أسلوب حياة. جامعتنا متفوقة بأركانها القوية، وليس فقط بمبانيها وهندسها المعمارية الرائعة. وفي هذه الجامعة يظهر التميز في عملية الاعتماد الأكاديمي للجامعة، وكذلك في اعتماد شعبها الدراسية. تمتد شبكتنا التعاونية الواسعة نوافذ العالم،
This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education. Our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education. Our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education, our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. UIN SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is UIN SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education, our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education, our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education. Our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education. Our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education, our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. SAIZU, Purwokerto. This is SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education, our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance, but by design. UIN SAIZU Purwokerto. This is UIN SAIZU. A university where excellence is not just a word, but a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but for the myriad of programs it offers. Our extensive networking spans far and wide, connecting students to opportunities globally. Within these walls, academic and non-academic achievements flourish, shaping tomorrow's leaders. We invest in the backbone of education, our lecturers and staffs nurturing a community of excellence. Our research reverberates across borders, with publications recognized and cited worldwide, a testament to our commitment to advancing knowledge. But we don't stop there. Our campus thrives on independence, fueled by innovative business units that sustain our growth. Our strategy is clear: capacity building, institutional strengthening, and network expansion. Because greatness isn't achieved by chance.
Cek. Oke, perhatian untuk seluruh hadirin yang sudah datang di venue untuk menempati tempat duduk yang ada di sesi tengah terlebih dahulu. Jadi yang masih ada di sesi pinggir, boleh untuk pindah ke tengah terlebih dahulu. Oke, teman-teman, ayo Kak, pindah dulu Kak. Ayo Kak, yang di sebelah sana untuk pindah ke tengah terlebih dahulu agar nanti ketika difoto semuanya bisa in frame. Oke? Yang dari sisi kiri dan sisi kanan silahkan untuk mengisi kursi tengah terlebih dahulu.
But a way of life. A superior campus isn't just defined by its picturesque landscapes or modern architecture. It's defined by the pillars upon which it stands. Here, superiority resonates through accreditation, not just for the institution itself, but
ya, mungkin bisa disisakan di front row atau di barisan paling depan untuk nanti para dekan dan pimpinan. Jadi bisa diisi yang bagian kedua. Ya, kalau bagian kedua sudah terisi penuh, berarti bisa mengisi bagian samping-sampingnya yang dekat dengan sesi center. Terima kasih.
في جامعتنا التي تجعل التميز ليس مجرد كلمة بل أسلوب حياة. جامعتنا متفوقة بأركانها القوية، وليس فقط بمبانيها وهندسها المعمارية الرائعة. وفي هذه الجامعة يظهر التميز في عملية الاعتماد الأكاديمي للجامعة، وكذلك في اعتماد شعبها الدراسية. تمتد شبكتنا التعاونية الواسعة نوافذ العالم، مما يفتح لطلابنا فرص الأعمال. وفي هذه الجامعة تزدهر الإنجازات الأكاديمية وغير الأكاديمية، مما يخلق قادة المستقبل. نحن نستثمر في التعليم مدرسين وموظفين لخلق مجتمع متميز. تتجاوز أبحاثنا العلمية الحدود الجغرافية لدول العالم، حيث تحظى منشوراتنا بالاعتراف والاستشهاد بها في جميع أنحاء العالم، وهو دليل على التزامنا بتطوير المعرفة. ولا نتوقف عند هذا الحد. جامعتنا تتطور وتدعمها مراكز الأعمال التي تعتبر الدعيم الأساسي لتطورنا. استراتيجيتنا واضحة: بناء القدرات وتعزيز المؤسسات وتوسيع الشبكات. لأن العظمة والازدهار لا تتحقق بالصدفة بل بالتصميم. مرحبا بكم في جامعتنا التي تجعل التميز ليس مجرد كلمة بل أسلوب حياة. جامعتنا متفوقة بأركانها القوية، وليس فقط بمبانيها وهندسها المعمارية الرائعة. وفي هذه الجامعة يظهر التميز في عملية الاعتماد الأكاديمي للجامعة، وكذلك في اعتماد شعبها الدراسية. تمتد شبكتنا التعاونية الواسعة نوافذ العالم، مما يفتح لطلابنا فرص الأعمال. وفي هذه الجامعة تزدهر الإنجازات الأكاديمية وغير الأكاديمية، مما يخلق قادة المستقبل. نحن نستثمر في التعليم مدرسين وموظفين لخلق مجتمع متميز. تتجاوز أبحاثنا العلمية الحدود الجغرافية لدول العالم، حيث تحظى منشوراتنا بالاعتراف والاستشهاد بها في جميع أنحاء العالم، وهو دليل على التزامنا بتطوير المعرفة. ولا نتوقف عند هذا الحد. جامعتنا تتطور وتدعمها مراكز الأعمال التي تعتبر الدعائم الأساسية لتطورنا. استراتيجيتنا واضحة: بناء القدرات وتعزيز المؤسسات وتوسيع الشبكات.
Cek. Baik, sebelum saya mulai acara, saya mohon kepada seluruh hadirin untuk mengisi kursi yang bagian depan terlebih dahulu. Terutama di bagian kanan nih, masih banyak nih yang di depan belum terisi. Ayo, kakak-kakak, maju ke depan terlebih dahulu. Silahkan. Biar nanti waktu difoto hasilnya bagus gitu. Silahkan yang baru datang untuk menempati kursi bagian depan terlebih dahulu. Ya, di baris kedua boleh. Yang di bagian kiri juga kami arahkan untuk mengisi bagian depan terlebih dahulu ya. Silahkan Kak. Bapak Ibu, mohon izin saya mulai acaranya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Excellencies, Rector of UIN SAIZU Purwokerto, Profesor Dr. Haji Ridwan MAG, the respectable Vice Rector 1 UIN SAIZU Purwokerto, Profesor Dr. Haji Suwito, the respectable Vice Rector 2 UIN SAIZU Purwokerto, Profesor Dr. Sulhan Hakim MAG, the respectable Vice Rector 3 UIN Profesor Kiai Saifudin Zuhri Purwokerto, Profesor Dr. Suwito, the respectable Head of Bureau for Administration, General Affairs, Planning and Finance, Mr. Nugraha Setiawan, the respectable Director of the International Office, Dr. Muhammad Sabirin, our distinguished speakers from various universities, University Science Islam Malaysia, Dr. Masutah Sulaiman, University of the Philippines, Professor Julkifli M. Wadi, Ribat University, USA, Profesor Claudia Sezi, UIN SAIZU Purwokerto, Profesor Dr. Haji Nita Triana, distinguished deans, heads of units, faculty members, researchers, students, institutional partners, and all participants. On behalf of the organizing committee, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 5th ICONTREES 2026. To gather scholars and academics leaders from various institutions and countries to engage in meaningful dialogue, exchange ideas, and strengthen international academic collaboration. Before, may I kindly request to all participants to ensure that their mobiles are switched to the mode to maintain academic gentlemen, Allow me to briefly present the agenda for today's opening session. First, the recitations of Holy Quran. Second, singing of National Anthem Indonesia Raya and Mars UIN SAIZU. Third, opening remarks by Rector of UIN SAIZU. Fourth, remarks from the partner institutions. Fifth, MOU signing ceremony. Sixth, presentations of souvenirs. Seventh, group photo sessions. Eighth, traditional dance performance. And ninth, transition to the plenary session. To open our agenda today, let's start by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Without any further ado, let's begin today's program. To seek blessings and guidance from Allah for the success for today's conference, we shall begin with the recitations of Holy Quran. We respectfully invite Mr. Al-Amin Idris to the podium to recite the Holy Quran. To Mr. Amin Idris, the floor is yours.
Warahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخنا على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. السلام عليكم.
Thank you. May the recitations bring success to this conference. We shall now sing the national anthem of Republik Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, and Mars UIN SAIZU Purwokerto. Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite everyone to stand. Kindly remain standing until both songs have concluded. Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed with the opening remarks. It is our great honor to invite the Rector of UIN SAIZU Purwokerto to deliver his remarks and officially declare the conference opening. To Professor Haji Ridwan MAG, we are honored to invite you to the podium. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahil muwaffiqil mu'in. Iyyahu na'budu wa iyyahu nasta'in. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. Qala ta'ala subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Sadaqallahul azim. Amma ba'du. The honorable keynote speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Masita binti Sulaiman from University Sains Islam Malaysia, Professor Nita Triana from our very own UIN from KHI Saifuddin Zuhri Purwokerto, Professor Zulkifli M. Wadi from the University of the Philippines, Professor Claudia Says from Ribat University, United States of America, distinguished guests, oral session presenters, university partners, and our privileged student participants joining us from various corners and the globe. Good morning and welcome to everyone. First and foremost, let us praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, the creator of the cosmos, whose blessing allow us to gather today, both in person and virtually, for this prestigious academic forum. Salawat and salam may always be granted to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On behalf of UIN Prof. KHI Saifuddin Zuhri Purwokerto, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to 7th International Conference on Transdisciplinary Religious Studies, ICONTREES 2026. Dear years, ICONTREES take a bold and vital step forward with the theme Beyond the Cosmos, Transdisciplinary Perspective on Eco-Theology and Global Sustainability. We are living in an era where climate change, environmental degradation, and ecological crisis are no longer distant threats, they are our present reality. Through the lens of eco-theology, we are reminded that our universe is a sacred trust. Looking beyond the cosmos means we must transcend narrow, compartmentalized thinking. We need a transdisciplinary approach where sacred texts meet environmental science, where religious ethics inform global policy, and where traditional wisdom strengthens modern sustainability. UN SAIZU is highly committed to pioneering and nurturing this harmonious bridge between faith, intellect, and ecological survival. Today, we are deeply honored to ask for understanding keynote speaker from 4 different nations, to Associate Professor Dr. Masito, Professor Nita Triana, Professor Zulkifli, and Professor Claudia. Thank you for bringing your immense expertise to our campus community. Your diverse insight from Malaysia, the Philippines, and USA and Indonesia will undoubtedly enrich our collective understanding of global sustainability. Furthermore, I would like to warmly welcome the presenter from 4 countries who will be sharing their reach in the parallel session, as well as the international student participant joining us today. Your present proof that the passion for ecological preservation and academic curiosity know no borders. To our student, you are the future custodian of this planet, and your engagement in this conference is highly commendable. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the organizing committee, the faculty, and all partners who worked tirelessly to make this annual flagship event a success. To all participants, I wish you a highly productive, inspiring, and intellectually stimulating conference. May the discussion held today spark real world action and policy recommendation for a greener, more sustainable world. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I hereby officially open the 5th International Conference on Transdisciplinary Religion Studies, ICONTREES 2026. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we shall now hear the remarks from our distinguished partner institutions. It is our pleasure to invite the representative of University Sains Islam Malaysia. To Dr. Ni Suhaida, the floor is yours.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Honorable Rector UIN SAIZU Purwokerto, Professor Dr. Ridwan, and all leadership of UIN SAIZU, respected Director of International Office, Dr. Muhammad Sabirin, distinguished keynote speakers from Indonesia, from Malaysia, Philippines, and also US, distinguished scholars from UIN SAIZU, all the students of UIN SAIZU, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, all praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His endless blessings and mercy which have allowed us to gather today in this meaningful event, the 5th SAIZU International Conference on Transdisciplinary Religious Studies, ICONTREES, with the theme Beyond the Cosmos Transdisciplinary Perspective on E-Cosmology Global Sustainability. Personally, I feel very honored to be here today, especially in a conference that brings us together, scholars and researchers from different backgrounds, to discuss issues that are highly relevant to our world today. The theme of this conference is that uphold the religion, knowledge, ethics, humanity, and sustainability should be never separated from one another. And the most important thing, I'm standing here today representing University Sains Islam Malaysia, USIM, together with all my members, Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Khairi, Associate Professor Dr. Mashita, and also Dr. Sohailiza, we would like to express our deepest appreciation to UIN SAIZU, Purwokerto. Can we give big applause to UIN SAIZU for the very warm hospitality, sincere friendship extended to us throughout our stay here in Purwokerto. Over the past 4 days, we have not only engaged in academic discussions, knowledge sharing session, seminar, knowledge transfers activities, and community engagement program in several pesantren in Purwokerto, but we have also had opportunity to experience the rich culture, values, and beautiful spirit of brotherhood shared by the people here in Purwokerto. Truly, this has been very meaningful experience for all of us. The relationship built during the visit feels far beyond a formal institution connection. It feels like the beginning of a genuine intellectual and human friendship, ukhuwah Islamiyah, that inshallah will continue to grow, bring lasting benefit to both our institutions, communities in the future. Therefore, this seminar today is also a meaningful occasion to further strengthen and formalize the close relationship between University Science Islam Malaysia, USIM, and UIN SAIZU Purwokerto through the Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony that will take place after this. In fact, the collaboration between our institution actually has already been established for quite some long time. And today's ceremony represents not the beginning of a relationship, but the renewal and continuation of our partnership that had already grown through various academic, intellectual, and community engagement initiatives. We sincerely hope that this renewed MOU will open wider opportunities for future collaboration and further strengthen the spirit of friendship, mutual learning, academic cooperation between our institutions, inshallah. And personally, to me, MOU is not simply about signatures on paper. The real meaning lies in the trust, sincerity, and shared aspiration behind it. It is about building bridge between institutions, culture, and communities. Finally, thank you once again to the leadership of the UIN SAIZU and organizing committee today for these wonderful memories. We truly appreciate your effort, your kindness, your friendship shown to us. So may Allah grant you the countless rizki min Allah, inshallah. So for the last of my speech, let me finish my speech with a pantun. Bisa ya? Baik, dengar ya. Di bumi Purwokerto menimba ilmu.
Cakep.
Disambut mesra penuh restu.
Cakep.
Terima kasih UIN SAIZU. Persahabatan ini terpahat di kalbu. With all that, thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you for such a wonderful speech from Dr. Nik Suhaida. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to invite the representative of the University of the Philippines to deliver his remarks. To Professor Julkipli, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's nice to be here for the first time in your beautiful city, Purwokerto.
Yesterday, I asked a new friend, I call him Pa Agus. I asked him, am I going to wear a suit or a batik for tomorrow's conference? He responded, it's up to you. I already understood the message, the response, because whenever I come to Indonesia, I usually prepare two types of clothing. One is the suit, and the other is the batik. And before coming, I tried to count in my closet how many batik shirt I have. I realized I actually have more than 20 batik. And I only have, incidentally, one barong Tagalog. You know barong Tagalog? This is like the national costume for male among Filipinos. So I asked myself, I am less nationalistic as Muslim Filipinos, or am I more Indonesian or Malaysian? I think I'm not necessarily less nationalistic, but I guess we appreciate our shared culture, despite that we belong to different nation states in Southeast Asia. And it is these shared values and our cultural affinity that whenever there are invitations, particularly from new friends in Indonesia, in Malaysia, I do not hesitate to accept the invitation, because I feel coming to Malaysia or Indonesia is like returning to my own roots. So thank you very much to the whole management and leadership of SAIZU, the staff, and all students for the warm welcome that you gave us yesterday and today, to all of us guests and lecturers from other countries, including myself, and for that matter, including my wife, Jocelyn Wadi. Because, you know, in a gathering, usually when I would not be able to mention her name, when we return to the hotel or to our house, I would receive some remarks. Why did you not mention me? Yeah. So I just want to show you that we're very thankful for the warm welcome you gave us since yesterday. And I was equally glad upon receiving that the theme of this 5th Countries Conference is entitled Beyond the Cosmos, an interdisciplinary perspective on ecotheology and global sustainability. This is a subject that is close to our hearts as students of Islamic studies, students of history, and many other fields and sciences. However, today, given that we have two occasions, one is the signing of our MOUs, and also the conference, the 5th ICONTREES conference, that I thought I'd rather reflect on what I call the future challenges of Islamic studies in the age of knowledge revolution. To reiterate, we are truly grateful to OIN SAIZU for holding multiple signings of MOU consisting a number of universities, including my university and the Institute of Islamic Studies. This is indeed a noteworthy endeavor coming at the heels of the fifth ICONTREES, the International Conference on Transdisciplinary Religious Studies with the theme Beyond the Cosmos, Transdisciplinary Perspective on Archaeology and Global Sustainability. This dual occasion of MOU signing and holding an international conference on interdisciplinary religious studies is more than just hitting two birds with a stone. It projects urgency with which educational institutions, particularly Islamic studies, have to put their acts together in engaging with what supposedly a holistic understanding of ilm or knowledge in general and Islamic thought in particular, but which, especially in modern time, the sway of specializations divides and compartmentalizes rather than unites and enriches fields of knowledge. As such, the trust for an interdisciplinary approach to knowledge has never been as urgent, like in today's call for ICONTREES in the acoustics of transdisciplinary knowledge domain like Beyond the Cosmos, eco-theology, and global sustainability. As our previous speaker already propounded the significance of our MOUs, allow me at this juncture to dwell on the notion of interdisciplinarity and why supposedly Islamic studies that promotes holistic understanding of deen has succumbed to myopic definition of religion, a Western concept that cannot capture deen's comprehensiveness. The multiple benefits of this conference would surely be felt not only these few days, but in the future, when UIN SAIZU and other co-signatory universities would be able to implement the terms of MOU respectively, at bottom and directly or indirectly, and whether in short or long terms, the process and end in the forging of these MOUs would be to address the knowledge revolution in its multidimensional implication in impacts in Muslim society. The challenge of knowledge revolution has never been as felt as today due to multidirectional and multidimensional character of global society defined by new knowledge like AI, robotics, nanotechnology, among others. Futurologists invariably coin multiple stages of knowledge revolution as Revolution 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, etc. These stages come at a time when Islamic studies education worldwide continued to grapple with its own knowledge tradition, the impact of Orientalism in modernity, while trying since the mid-20th century to define what may be termed as third wave Islamic studies. The trend in harmonizing classical knowledge tradition of Islamic studies with modern, oftentimes empirical, positivistic, structural functional paradigm of Orientalism results into a kind of a hybrid Islamic studies education that tries to satisfy the three waves while hardly providing comprehensive inputs into today's knowledge revolution and its future. The thesis I want to propound is that when we want to play a role in the shaping of the knowledge revolution, there is a need for Muslim scholars in various fields to come together and raise the ante in responding into how to shape the future. And this is not something new in the case of Muslim scholarship. There had been many instances where Muslim scholars, faced with varying challenges in different periods of history, rose and tried to play the role as scholars, whether it is in the period of the formations of the Kalam, the systematization of Islamic philosophy in the Golden Age, even recently in the 20th century, when Muslim scholars also stood in facing the challenge of science and modernization. And prominent amongst these intellectual giants in our time are still, some of them are still with us, when they stood up and reflected on the challenge of modernity in science in the 20th and 21st century. And I would contend that the challenge of AI and other knowledge revolution and their impact require, as it were, the need for Muslim scholars to grapple even seriously the impact of this new revolution, the new technology it brings, so that Islamic study would be as relevant in terms not only in defining the future of Muslim society, but in playing its important role in defining the future of science and technology. So it is my fervent prayer that the signing of our MOU today would just be the beginning. I'm very sure there will be even more activities related to the contracts and terms of our MOUs. We can replicate the same in my university and other universities, so that we can kick off and start the process of responding to the challenge of our time, as already articulated in your conference, beyond the cosmos, and I would contend the challenge of knowledge revolution in our time. Wa ba'ad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Zulkifli, for the heartfelt and the personal speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now arrived at the most significant moment of today's conference, the MOU signing ceremony between UIN SAIZU, University Science Islam Malaysia, and the University of the Philippines. May I respectfully invite the following representative to proceed to the signing area. First, Dr. Muhammad Sabrin, the Director of the International Office. Second, Professor Dr. Haji Ridwan MAG, Director of UIN SAIZU. Third, Dr. Khairi, the Delegate of University Science Islam Malaysia. And the last, Professor Zulkifli from University of the Philippines. We would also like to invite the witnesses to kindly join and accompany the signing ceremony. Vice Rector 1, Vice Rector 2, and Vice Rector 3, Head of the Bureau, Kabiro AUPK, Head of the all units, mungkin ada Ketua LPM, dan semua kepala unit untuk join juga ke depan. Selanjutnya ada dekan-dekan dari seluruh universitas, dari seluruh fakultas yang hadir. All the deans that come. Thank you so much. Please give a warm round of applause, everyone. Congratulations. Okay, face the camera, please. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, again. Okay, everyone please give a warm applause. Ladies and gentlemen, next agenda is the presentation of the commemorative souvenirs from UIN SAIZU to all the distinguished speakers. So may all the signatories and invited representatives to kindly remain at the front to participate this presentation. I will repeat. The next agenda is the presentations of the commemorative souvenirs from UIN SAIZU to all the distinguished speakers. May all the signatories and invited speakers to kindly remain at the front to participate in the presentation later while we're waiting for the preparation. Baik, silahkan kepada Bapak Profesor Ridwan untuk turun ke panggung untuk menyerahkan souvenir. Dr. Masita, please join us in the floor. Thank you. And right after this, the handover souvenirs from the museum to UIN SAIZU. Okay. And now we will invite to the Professor Julipli to join us in the floor to receive the souvenirs from UIN SAIZU. Thank you, Prof. Zulkifli. And right after this, to the keynote speakers, Professor Dr. Hajini Tatriana, to join us in the floor to receive the souvenirs from UIN SAIZU. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed to the official photo group session. To all the participants, please stand up. To all the participants, please stand up. To all the participants, please stand up. And to all the university officials, please kindly remain standing at the front row for the documentation. Dr. Masita, Prof. Zulkifli. Okay, for everyone, we invite you to join at the center area. At the center area. Ya, untuk yang sebelah pinggir kanan silahkan untuk ke tengah. Ya, agar terlihat semua di frame. Bapak Sobirin, silakan untuk ke depan. Lalu Prof Hairi, silakan Prof, maju ke depan. Thank you, terima kasih untuk semuanya. Silahkan untuk kembali ke tempat duduk masing-masing. Please go back to your seating. Setelah ini ada tari. Okay, I would encourage everyone to please go back to your seat because we are now proceed to the next agenda. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of our appreciation of the cultural heritage, we are pleased to present a traditional dance performance from Banyumas. It's called Tari Megat Megot. To everyone, please enjoy the performance.
Atur kami memulai
Thank you for the performance. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to welcome our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Masitah Sulaiman from University Sains Islam Malaysia. To Dr. Masitah Sulaiman, the floor is yours.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Distinguished guests, rector and leadership of UN SAIZU Purwokerto, esteemed conference chairs, international scholars, dear students attending this 5th ICONTREES conference, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and very good morning. I would like to thank you very much for inviting me to present and share my views in this remarkable conference, the 5th UN SAIZU International Conference on Transdisciplinary Religious Studies, ICONTREES, with a special themes, Beyond the Cosmos, Transdisciplinary Perspective on Eco-theology and Global Sustainability. Distinguished guests, venerable scholars, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my university, University Sains Islam Malaysia, it is an immense honor to stand before you today in the UN SAIZU Hall. Inshallah, within a time limit, I would like to share my view regarding this topic, transforming Islamic philosophy into action through inculcating Islamic theology and ethics in educational curriculums towards sustainable society. We are here to address a truth that modern frameworks have consistently failed to recognize. The contemporary environmental crisis is not simply a failure of physical system, but a profound spiritual crisis. As we look around our planet, unrestrained scientific and technological developments has propelled human material civilization to incredible height. Yet because of this progress has operated without a binding objective of ethical framework, it has given humanity to power to exploit the natural world ruthlessly and systematically. Look at the secular fixes widely promoted today. Carbon trading, geoengineering, and modern environmental policies. While theory like deep ecology or social theological theory offer interesting academic critiques, their secular foundation falls short. They fail to provide a deeply felt moral compass that can motivate true behavioral change within religiously oriented communities. Environmental degradation is a symptom of a distorted worldview that separates humanity from its sacred responsibility towards nature. To save our planet, we must go beyond technical intervention and spark a profound paradigm shift. We must integrate theological wisdom with environmental science. As outlined in this visual framework, we must change over from an exploitative Western anthropocentric view and move towards a comprehensive Islamic eco-theological model. The most direct and effective path to achieve this is through the systematic integration of these values into our educational core curriculum. To understand how our relationship with the earth becomes so damaged, we must trace what I call the epistemology of ruins. The modern Western separations of humanity from nature is built upon two powerful philosophical pillars: Baconian's anthropocentrism and Cartesian dualism. To fully understand our current ecological predicament, we must trace the historical and ideological path of modern Western philosophy. The conviction that humanity and nature are two separate, competing entities did not happen by accident. It was systematically constructed. While ancient cultures views the earth as life and indivisible, avoiding using theoretical knowledge to manipulate or abuse nature, the modern era introduced a radical break. Modernity institutionalized the divisions of humanity from nature through three constructive concepts. First, the empirical program of Francis Bacon. Second, the dualism of René Descartes. And third, the complete metaphysication of the world. The first historical dawn of Anthropocene's the geological approach defined by massive human disruptions of the Earth ecosystem is directly tied to the rational humanism and anthropocentrism championed by Francis Bacon. Bacon's famous maxim, human knowledge and human power meets in one, completely transformed the relationship between human being and the cosmos. He advocated for using technology and the empirical method to master natural laws, explicitly framing the natural world as the adversary to be conquered, to be dominated, and forced to serve human efforts. In his work, Novum Organons, Bacon argued that dominating nature acutes to power, while he acknowledged that humans are physically part of nature. He also asserted that our scientific intellect allowed us to build an autonomous empire of man right in the middle of nature, even if it requires systemic violence. The second concept, Cartesian dualism, this human-centered obsession was later codified by René Descartes. Through his famous maxim, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, Descartes split reality into two. He he severed the human mind from physical body and the natural world. In doing so, he strips nature of subjectivity and life, reducing the universe to that soulless and mechanical entity. Under this Cartesian lens, nature lacks any inherent value. It becomes a collection of objects to be mathematically measured, quantified, and exploited. Because non-human life was reduced to simple mechanical metal, ethics and humanity stopped caring about it entirely. Man became an alliance in the universe, removed from the broader community of life, and Descartes explicitly carried forward Bacon vision, celebrating man as the undisputed matter and processor of nature. In sharp contrast to Cartesian and Baconian views, Islamic eco-theology offers a comprehensive way to re-secularize nature. Unlike Western science, which view knowledge as secular and absolute, Tawhid science places a high value on divinity and epistemic humility. It teaches all human breakthroughs and inventions must reflect our direct responsibility towards the Creator. Therefore, destructive and uncivilized innovation and creations that harms environmental well-being is strictly prohibited. As we can see in our three main elements of Islamic eco-theology. We have very clear spiritual pillars. First, we have Tawhid, and this principle emphasizes that all creation is interconnected and nature is a living ayah of the Creator and possess intrinsic value. Islam explicitly rejects the split between the sacred and physical world. Second is Khalifa. And Amanah. Humans are not absolute owner of the planet. We are delegated, trusted, appointed to care for the earth. This stewardship requires ecological accountability, making environment care a fundamental religious obligation. The third pillar is Mizan. The universe was brought into existence in a state of perfect, self-sustaining ecological equilibrium. Humans are commanded to serve this balance and use natural resources responsibly. And the fourth pillars are Insan Kamil. The ultimate goal of character development is the person who subdues degree consumerism and nafs to live with simplicity, zuhud, and contentment, qana'ah, and deep ethical respect for the earth. Our theology must move beyond abstract theology. It requires a practical behavioral vehicle to drive institutional change. Merely identifying these ethical principles is no longer sufficient to stop environmental breakdown. We must formally embed our eco-theology into the core architecture of Islamic religious and character education, and we must restructure how knowledge is valued, teaching students that environmental damage is a direct sin towards God creation, not just a civil violation. We base these three actions directly on three powerful divine directives. The slide before. Okay. First, prohibitions of fasad. Second, the command of formizan. And the third one is the prophetic tradition of sadaqah jariyah. Okay, next. Our strategy for this educational transformation is built around the curriculum transformation dashboard, address 4 key areas. First, cognitive integration. We can infuse eco-ethics into a standard. We already developed our STEM Q courses in Ulul Albab, especially in Malaysia, and Imtiaz. We also embed to teach natural sciences as the study of the divine sign. That means we are not just teach students how to appreciate earth, how to appreciate environment, but we still need to embed the Islamic eco-theology philosophy into this particular activity. And the second is behavioral integration. We can adapt fiqh to teach fiqh al-bi'ah. Maybe we can, for those who design the university curriculum, you can also put it, the environmental fiqh. Frame environmental damage has israf, has a direct spiritual sin. And third, we can also engage community service and campaign. We already applied. Align action with sustainable development goals. That meets to the vision and the goal of the UNESCO. And then we can also plan the activity like tree planting, beach cleanups, and eco advocacy. In order to improve our environmental policy and partnership, we can also invite, shape local and national policy using Islamic ethical metric, and in order to build a strong collaboration with the global eco organization. As we look for practical model here in Indonesia, move to another slide. I'm very great to visit one of the pesantren in Indonesia, Pesantren Darussalam. We find our greatest inspirations in the Eco Pesantren Blueprint. The pesantren demonstrate how integrating environmental responsibility into daily communal routines build deep and long-lasting ecological piety. It is not for the sake of entrepreneurship, but it is also the sake to appreciate environment. So Eco Pesantren function has a complete green ecosystem, and from this particular concept can be also applied to any other boarding school, not just in Malaysia, not just in Indonesia, but in Southeast Asia. Building a truly sustainable society requires a deep reform of both how we acquire knowledge, this is what we call next epistemology, and what we value and action reflecting in our culture and behavior. This is what we call the area of axiology. As summarized in this slide, as we can see the clash of paradigm, we face two paths forward. The secular modern capitalist model continue to treat nature as a commodity, driven by hyper-consumerism and epistemic arrogance. However, the Islamic integrated model offers a path forward and integrated human, insan bersepadu, balancing divine revelations, wahyu, with reason, akal, and grounding our life in epistemic humility. Building a truly sustainable society requires us to decolonize knowledge and replace greed with moderation, wasatiyah, justice, al-adlu, and mercy, rahmah. Environmental stewardship is not just a pragmatic policy choice. It is a sacred divine mandate to preserve the equilibriums of the earth. The modern environmental crisis is an undeniable manifestation of a flawed philosophical paradigm. While secular environmental movements do good job, they also often lack a deep spiritual motivation required to change human behavior. The Islamic eco-theological heritage provides the exact theoretical and practical framework needed to restore balance to our world. Let us leave this hall determined to turn this principle into real everyday action. After this, we can plant tree, behind of our house to appreciate what we have learned from the Quran and Hadith. Let us reform our curricula, rebuild our teacher training program, and transform our school. By combining an epistemological synthesis of reason and revelations with an axiological commitment to justice and moderation, let us cultivate a new generation of ecological conscious stewards. Let us use this platform of the first ICONTREES conference to transform our educational system, turning Islamic environmental philosophy into clear pedagogical action for a sustainable future. I end my speech with reciting one pantun, again from Usim. Ronda-ronda di sekitar kota, singgah sebentar di tepi titi. Kenangan indah di bumi Purwokerto tetap tersemat di dalam hati. Okay, with that, I end my presentation with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Dr. Masita. And one more, please give a warm applause. Dear ladies and gentlemen, at this time we would like to respectfully invite the rector, distinguished guests, and delegates from USIM to proceed to their next agenda. Kami persilahkan kepada Bapak Rektor, para pimpinan universitas, serta seluruh delegasi dari USIM untuk melanjutkan ke agenda berikutnya. Kami juga mengucapkan terima kasih atas kehadiran dan partisipasinya. Sekali lagi berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah untuk delegasi dari USIM dan juga Bapak Rektor kita. Okay. Meanwhile, for all the conference participants, we would like to invite you to move forward and occupy the front row, please. Untuk maju ke depan dan menempati tempat duduk yang ada di barisan depan. Silahkan. Ayo teman-teman. Baik, oke. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the plenary session of ICONTREES 2026. It is now my honor to introduce our moderator for the plenary session. She is the head of the English Education Study Program at SAIZU Purwokerto, an active researcher, an academic with extensive experience in English language educations, international academic collaborations, and also scholarly publications. She has also served as an international guest lecturer and speaker in various academic forums, both nationally and internationally. Without any further ado, I would like to invite the moderator, Mrs. Desi Wijayanti Ma'rufah, to take over the proceeding. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the MC. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Excellency Rector of SAIZU Purwokerto and distinguished keynote speaker and also invited speaker, honorable guests, respected scholars, students, lecturers, and conference participants. A very good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Desi Wijayanti Ma'rufah. I'm from SAIZU Purwokerto, and it is my privilege to serve Nita, Triana, and also Professor Julkifli M. Wadi in today's plenary session. So everyone, first of all, let us express our sincerely appreciation to Professor Masita that has already inspired us, yeah, especially about transforming Islamic philosophy into action through inculcating Islamic ecotheology and ethics in educational curriculum. Culture and society. And she is particularly known her extensive fieldwork in Indonesia and her scholarly contribution to understanding Muslim communities religious practices, and Islamic intellectual tradition in the region. And today, she will present about towards a theory for practical ecotheology. So everyone now, please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Claudia Aziza Says with our big applause, everyone. Please welcome Dr. Claudia Aziza Says. The floor is yours.
Video. Maybe can you turn on the video? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I will start my talk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks for this invitation to the organizers, in particular to my long-term colleague, Dr. Sobirin. I had the honor of collaborating with him on several projects over the last 8 years. Today, I will put forward first thoughts of a theory for practical ecotheology, which is grounded in traditional Muslim teachings and Javanese cosmology. I have come to learn about these two approaches while living, studying, researching, and working in Indonesia over 2 decades. So what is ecotheology? Ecotheology is a constructive theology that explores the interrelationship between religion and nature. It emphasizes that we, as human beings, are part of creation and morally responsibly how we treat it. We are living in what is commonly referred to as the era of the Anthropocene, a geological epoch that marks the time in our Earth's history when human activity becomes the primary influence on climate, ecosystems, and ecology. Therefore, our most pressing needs and responsibilities today are to take care of 3 essentials: water, earth, and air. I prepared a small presentation, so if you have it, you can open the second slide now. My main question in putting forth a theory for ecotheology is, how can we enable human beings to become responsible, independent in thought and practice in caring and protecting our water, earth, and air? More specifically, how we manage our water resources, how we tend the earth, and how we can breathe clean air. There are several Muslim-led and Islam-inspired initiatives worldwide working on environmental protection and awareness raising. Most of these organizations are inspired by Islamic teachings and cite various Quranic verses and sayings and practices by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, from my observations in other areas of human life, it is important to contextualize, localize, and universalize Islamic teachings to reach people from all walks of life. This means, for Indonesia, that a theory for ecotheology should be rooted in this particular geographical and cultural context, although, of course, it can also inspire other geographical regions and people, and it should, inshallah. So examples from Indonesia. Now let me introduce 3 case studies really shortly from Yogyakarta, Java, where more and more young people are ready and determined to make a positive impact. Each study covers one of the fields I have mentioned earlier: air, water, and earth. All 3 groups work from within a religiously and/or spiritually inspired framework and are interreligious initiatives. So first, the Bumi Langit Institute in Imogiri, South Yogyakarta, is an initiative focused on tending the earth through permaculture and organic food production. They not only offer courses and trainings to school children, university students, and interested people from all over the world, but they also offer healthy and organic food in their restaurant. Permaculture is a method that can be applied in all regions of the world. It can also heal damaged soil that has been exploited through conventional agriculture and monoculture plantations. The Australian researcher, writer, and biologist Bill Mollison is considered the modern father of permaculture. The Bumi Langit Institute in Yogyakarta is founded and run by Pa Iskandar and his family. My second example is Sekolah Banyu Bening, the rainwater school in Sleman, Yogyakarta, is a beautiful example for sustainable water management. For nearly 15 years, the founders, Ibu Sri Wahyuningsi and her husband, have harvested, stored, and used rainwater for drinking and medicinal purposes. They help educate the local people, especially in dry rural areas like Gunung Kidul, about rainwater and how to harvest and store it by using easy-to-use installations. My third example, Monument Anthropocene in Bantul, Yogyakarta. This institution, founded by Franziska Fennert, educates the public on waste management and improving our quality of life by improving the quality of the air we breathe. Because waste should not be burned, right? It should be managed differently. Waste management is a huge problem in most countries in the world, and we need to find ways to raise people's awareness and provide proper solutions on responsible waste management. Monument Anthropocene is one such initiative in this field, but it needs many more such initiatives to tackle these issues. So I think we don't have the slides, but it would be slide 3, being a Khalifa. So Prof. Mashita already talked about this extensively, but I will only mention it here because it's part of the framework. From the Islamic perspective, humanity is burdened with the responsibility of being the vicegerent or Khalifa on this earth. In the last verse of Surah Al-An'am in the Quran we read, "It is He who has made you His agents, inheritors on earth. He has raised you in ranks, some above others, so that He may try you in the gifts He has given you. For your Lord is quick in punishment, yet He is indeed oft forgiving, most merciful." Being a Khalifa comes with the requirements to take care of the planet and all its inhabitants, whether these are animals, plants, rocks, or unseen. A true Khalifa is aware of the weight of their actions, a caretaker who is ideally equipped with the proper knowledge to fulfill their responsibilities towards the whole creation. Admittedly, most of us cannot match this responsibility. When we think about the role of Khalifa, what kind of person should they be, or should he be? Undoubtedly, the perfect Khalifa was our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was sent by God to be Rahmatan lil Alameen, a mercy for all the worlds, for all of creation. We must remind ourselves that we must not choose and pick when following his example. Rather, we have to follow him in everything, not only in how we pray and fast, but also how we interact, conduct commerce, and treat creation. There are many examples in our traditions of how the Prophet ﷺ cared for creation. For example, while being on a journey, some men took chicks from a nest, causing the mother bird to circle overhead and beat her wings in grief. Upon his return, the Prophet demanded, "Who has hurt the feelings of this bird by taking its young? Return them to her." This is an example of his exemplary compassion towards creation. He was also very careful not to use too much water, not only because he lived in a place where water is scarce, but to teach us that water needs to be treated with care and not to be wasted and taken for granted. Okay, 1 minute. There's also the tradition of the weeping palm trunk, and I love this tradition. It describes how a dry palm tree trunk began weeping when the Prophet ﷺ began using a pulpit instead of leaning on it while delivering his Friday sermons. He showed us that the tree trunk was a sentient, living being similar to ours. We can conclude that a Khalifa is a protective and caring person who respects the rights of creation, who does not waste, and who does not do irreparable harm. Next slide, please, slide 4. The youngest sibling, anak bungsu. Now let me shift our focus to Javanese cosmology and our role in it. As I have learned from my teachers, humans are considered to be the youngest creation God has created. Figuratively speaking, the human is the youngest sibling, the anak bungsu, in the big family of God's creation, which of course does not imply in no way whatsoever that Allah is the father to his creation. It is purely meant symbolically. We read in Surah Al-An'am, verse 38, "There's not an animal that lives on the earth, not a being that flies on its wings, but forms part of communities like you. Nothing have we omitted from the book, and they all shall be gathered together to their Lord in the end." What does it mean to be the youngest sibling? As the youngest, we ought to look up to our older siblings, who have lived longer than us and have more knowledge and experience. This is what younger siblings do, right? They learn from their older brothers and sisters. That is why they learn faster than single children. They constantly observe their older and more capable siblings and learn by copying them. In many cultures, and this is especially true for Indonesia, the youngest sibling is expected to be respectful and humble, thankful for being protected and cared for by the others. So slide 5, please. So how can we find an equilibrium, a harmony between our role as Khalifa and our role as the anak bungsu in the big family of creation? I mean, these are two very different roles, right? I mean, one is like a leader and one is the smallest child. I propose that humbleness and awe are two of the most essential characteristics that we can borrow from the Javanese teachings. How can we develop and cultivate humbleness and awe, as well as compassion and responsibility? We must read both books given to us by Allah, the revealed book of the Quran and the book of creation. The sciences and disciplines connected with the Quran furnish us with the guidance and rules on how to conduct our life in this world. On the other hand, the Kitab Kauniyah and the book of creation is there for us to observe and to reflect, to do tadabbur and tafakkur. From observing and reflecting upon nature, hopefully, a feeling of awe emerges when looking at the mountains, the oceans and rivers, the land and the sky, which does not leave space for pride, arrogance, and superiority. Having introduced the concepts of Khalifa and anak bungsu, let us now move on to the 5 pillars of Islam and how we can apply them in the framework of eco-theology. Slide 6, please. The universal learning. In the 17th century, the Chinese Muslim scholar Liu Qi sought to present the Islamic tradition as the universal learning and described the 5 pillars of Islam as a way a balance can be struck between heaven, earth, and humanity. Liu Qi was a Chinese Sunni Hanafi Maturidi scholar of the Qing dynasty. He attempted to explain Muslim thought in the Chinese intellectual climate for Hui Chinese audience by discussing terminologies from Buddhism, Taoism, and Neo-Confucianism and aligning them with Islamic concepts. The 5 pillars of Islam, meaning the profession of faith, ritual prayer, fasting, zakat, and hajj, complete the harmony between the 3 axes of heaven, earth, and humanity. According to Qi, the 5 pillars enable humanity to respect the balance on earth, which is maintained by the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, which God has distributed on our planet in the proper scale. In Liu Qi's Sinu Islamic interpretation, so Chinese Islamic interpretation of the 5-fold path, These 5 elements form part of the earth's wisdom, as he describes it, and correspond to the 5 pillars of Islam, which are part of humanity's wisdom. Through the 5 pillars of Islam, humans can achieve harmony and return to their original state of fitra. So following Liu Ji's vision of reframing the Islamic tradition as the universal learning and providing solutions to people of all faiths, I propose that the essence of the 5 pillars of Islam can also be applied to people of other faiths. Remembrance of God, turning to God in regular worship and prayer, caring for the needy and giving to the poor, curbing the desires of the body by engaging in regular fasting, and journeying in search for a deeper connection to the divine. This is not a perennial vision, so saying that all religions are same. This is not a perennial vision, but a simple acknowledgement of reality where people of different faiths live together and work together to restore the equilibrium of our planet. Why choose Liu Ji's interpretation of the 5 pillars of Islam? As I mentioned in the beginning, such theoretical framework must be grounded in a specific context, localized and adapted to the local conditions. As a Southeast Asian specialist, doing research about Indonesia, I focus on the people of Indonesia. However, I feel that Indonesia's historical and contemporary discourses on Islam can also speak to people in other regions, given Indonesia's multicultural, multi-religious, and multi-ethnic context. Indonesia can be an example for the whole world, actually. Quite a number of Indonesian Muslim figures had spiritual teachers with Chinese roots. One of them being Prince Diponegoro, the mystic leader of the Javanese rebellion against the Dutch colonial power between 1825 and 1830. His sheikh was the Chinese scholar Kiai Song or Abdul Raub. Also, several members of the Wali Songo could trace their lineage to Muslim Chinese ancestors. Referring to the ideas of Liu Ji can help make the Islamic teachings more accessible in our time and age. Most importantly, he localized his teachings to an audience highly influenced by other spiritual teachings. He made the conscious effort to adapt his framework and terminology without compromising the original teachings. In fact, as his readers, we encounter new levels of understanding about the 5 pillars of Islam, which enrich our own perspective. I wish I could elaborate further, but that would go beyond the keynote speech or beyond this speech. Liu Ji explored the role of the 5 pillars of Islam in harmonizing the 5 earthly elements by establishing a connection between God's rules for humanity and God's natural laws. In this way, Liu Ji also presupposes our responsibility to take care of the earth and everything in it, thereby achieving complete harmony with the divine, with God and nature. Okay, slide 8, please. Okay, next. Next slide, please. So what is nature and how do we perceive it? This is a question also that Professor Mashita already mentioned in her presentation, but I think we can add a few points maybe. As my last point, I want to discuss our modern perception of nature and how this perception influences how we treat nature. What is nature and how do we view nature? Since globalization and Western thinking is dominating all public spheres around the globe, our perception and understanding of nature has changed. Traditional communities throughout the world, including Indonesia, have always lived in harmony with nature. Nature, as God's creation, is considered sacred, not to be confused with worship, and Orientalists like to confuse that. to consider something sacred and to worship it, but it's two different things. So most traditional cultures have a deep reverence for nature, but this does not mean they worship nature, which is a misconception originating from Orientalists. In Islam, nature is seen as sacred as well, as taught by eminent Sufi scholars and mystics like Fariduddin Attar, Ibn Arabi, and Jalaluddin Rumi. However, the westernized, secularized minds of today view nature not as a friend and sacred trust, amana, but as a risk, a potential danger, and a hazard that threatens human life and must be controlled, reduced, and exploited to serve human needs. This mindset of viewing nature as an opposition to human life is rooted in the thinking of the 6th century figure St. Paul, or Paul the Apostle, who propagated the fatal divorce between the human body and soul and between nature and religion. This ideology has become an essential part of Christian doctrine and consequently Western civilization as a whole, like Prof. Mashida mentioned, the Cartesian dualism. Eventually, this doctrine of divorcing matter from soul has profoundly influenced how we view and treat creation. It is, therefore, essential to be aware of this striking gap in human perception, which views human life as completely separate and independent from nature, when the very opposite is true. We utterly depend on it. Wild and untamed nature frightens us, and we try our utmost to control it and put it in its place. However, we seem to forget that every form of creation has its own tasbih, its own way of glorifying God. For the earth, it might be its shaking and form of a violent earthquake. For the volcano, it might be its clouds of ash and flowing lava. The sea, the jungle, each animal and plant have been given their own form of glorifying God's might and power. We read in Surah Al-Isra, the 7 heavens, the earth and all beings therein declare his glory. There is not a thing but celebrates his praise, and yet you understand not how they declare his glory. Okay, I'm almost finished. We started 3 minutes past 11, and I was told I have 30 minutes, so I will just finish my presentation now. If we internalize the teaching of this verse, we can detach ourselves from the Western notion of the dangerous wilderness that threatens humanity. When we understand nature as our fellow sibling in creation, we are more willing to take care and protect creation instead of ruthlessly exploiting it. For a genuine theory of ecotheology, we need to develop methods to overcome our perception of nature as being our enemy. It is not our call to subdue nature and make it subservient to us. Rather, our call is to establish harmony, kerukunan, between humanity and nature, and this is what ought to be at the center of every framework of ecotheology. This includes strict protection of forests and wildlife, of waterways and oceans, regulations to protect rice fields and traditional agriculture, as well as customary land, Tanah Adat. For the wider public, it means to develop strategies for waste management on the family, communal, regional, and state level. Let me now quickly summarize the elements discussed earlier. So the 4-point plan, the last slide, please. Following this rudimentary theoretical framework, as we have discussed, it must be put into practice and translated into action. The first step is to educate the public about their roles in this world as Khalifa and anak bungsu, showing ways how to cultivate their emotional and spiritual states connected with it, compassion, awe, and humility. So the second step is to enlighten the public about misconceptions society has about the relationship between nature and humanity. The third step is to underscore the universal nature of the 5 pillars of Islam and how people of all faiths can spiritually benefit from the wisdom of the 5 pillars. The last step is to encourage and motivate the public especially our young people, to fulfill their role as Khalifa by developing new projects in water, air, and earth management, which can benefit them, their families, their communities, and their societies. Thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to your feedback and hope we can work together to further develop this framework. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Claudia Says, for that inspiring presentation. So your reflection have reminded us that ecological transformation ultimately begins with how we understand our place, within creation, especially the balance between our responsibility as Khalifa and our humility as members of the larger family of creation offers a profound ethical foundation for environmental stewardship. So, ini saya jelaskan sedikit ya. Jadi tadi Dr. Claudia Says mengangkat konsep ekoteologi praktis ya teman-teman mahasiswa di sini. Jadi bagaimana manusia dapat menerapkan tanggung jawab terhadap lingkungan kita ya dalam sehari-hari. Yang beliau tekankan itu bahwa Islam manusia ini ya kita memiliki dua peran sekaligus. Yang pertama adalah sebagai khalifah, yaitu penjaga dan pengelola bumi yang bertanggung jawab menjaga kelestarian alam tentunya. Yang kedua adalah kita tadi diistilahkan sebagai anak bungsu dalam keluarga our creation ya, ciptaan Allah yang harus rendah hati, menghormati dan belajar dari makhluk lain ya, serta kita harus belajar dari alam yang memang tersedia untuk kita. Itu tadi adalah summary from the Dr. Claudia. And now I would like to invite our next invited speaker, Professor Dr. Hajah Nita Triana. Firstly, I would like to introduce about Professor Nita Triana. So she is a professor of environmental law and currently serves as the head of the master's program in Sharia economic law, especially in SAIZU. And she is also a national research reviewer from the Indonesian Ministry of Religious Affairs. And her academic specialization lies in environmental law, ecological justice, and sustainable development, in which she has made significant scholarly contribution over many years. And her research has been published in the internationally reputable journals, including studies on ecological justice, environmental dispute resolution, community participation in environmental friendly energy development, and the application of environmental principle within Islamic legal perspective. And today in this plenary, she will present a paper entitled Beyond Economic Growth Toward a Transdisciplinary Eco-Theological Paradigm for Sustainable Development and Ecological Justice. So I would like to invite, please, and now please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Nita Triana with our big applause, everyone.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Good morning or good afternoon Honorable Rector of SAIZU, Professor Ridwan, distinguished professor, respected colleagues, honored guests and fellow scholars, and especially for my student from graduate program pasca sarjana Magister Ekonomi Syariah. Ada yang hadir di sini? Oke ya. Dan juga Magister Hukum Ekonomi Syariah, ada yang hadir di sini? Ya. Oke. Thank you for joining me today. It is a pleasure to be part of this academic forum where ideas, experience, and perspective come together in pursuit of knowledge and solution to contemporary challenges. As the world faces increasingly complex environmental and societal issues, it becomes clear that no single discipline can adequately address these challenges on its own. The need for collaboration, integration of knowledge, and innovative approach has never been more urgent. This realization serves as the foundation of the topic I will discuss today. Maksudnya, saya ingin menjelaskan di sini bahwa untuk bidang environment itu dibutuhkan sekali yang namanya integrated atau multidisiplin untuk berkolaborasi ya, dari hal mulai kita riset ya, bahkan nanti sampai juga di kurikulum mata kuliah. Ini sangat penting sekali. So, in this presentation I will examine the issues from a transdisciplinary perspective, highlighting how a more holistic and interconnected approach may contribute to the development of sustainable and just solutions. I hope the ideas presented today will encourage constructive dialogue and open new avenues for future research and practice. Thank you for your presence and attention. It's my pleasure to begin the presentation. Kita mulai ya dari pembukaan itu sudah. Oke. Okay. And my title article is Beyond Economic Growth Toward a Transdisciplinary Eco-Theological Paradigm for Sustainable Development and Ecological Justice. Dan ini kalau untuk yang mahasiswa HES maupun MHES, ini yang ikut juga online juga, yang di sini juga offline, ini adalah keseharian yang biasa kita diskusikan ya, tentang bagaimana economic growth atau pertumbuhan ekonomi ya didekati dengan pendekatan eco-theological untuk menuju pembangunan berkelanjutan dan juga keadilan ekologi. Jadi mungkin ada beberapa yang baru mendengar tentang keadilan ekologi ya, karena biasanya ekologi itu keadilan itu lebih kepada keadilan untuk manusia ya, tapi saat ini keadilan itu bukan hanya untuk manusia, tapi keadilan itu juga adalah untuk environment, untuk lingkungan. Jadi kalau zaman dulu sudah ada yang namanya lagu Ebit GAD ya enggak, apa lagunya itu yang berjudul Andai Ilalang Bisa Bicara ya, andai alam bisa bicara, mungkin dia sudah tanda kutip itu muak gitu ya, dengan kenapa kita itu selalu jadi korban. Nah saat ini maka di Kemenag itu, di Minister of Religion ya, itu sedang menggembar-gemborkan tentang ekoteologi, dan ini merupakan satu pendekatan yang bisa didekati ya. Di sini saya mencontohkan nanti baik bagi ekonomi, bagi hukum maupun bagi pendidikan. So, the introduction, the global environmental crisis characterized by climate change, forest degradation, biodiversity loss, environmental pollution, and the increasing frequency of ecological disaster demonstrates that the development paradigm, which has historical focus on economic growth, has not fully guaranteed the sustainability of life. For decades, development success has been measured primarily through economy indicator such as gross domestic product atau kita kenal dengan GDP. Jadi yang namanya pembangunan saat ini selalu yang dikejar itu adalah GDP, ya enggak? Gross domestic product ya. Increased investment, industrialization, and the exploitation of nature resource. So, normatively, or dasolan, ya, kalau fakultas hukum biasa kita sebut dasolan atau idealnya, various national and international legal instruments have emphasized the importance of sustainable development that integrates economic, social, and environmental dimension. The concept of sustainable development the Sustainable Development Goal atau kita kenal dengan SDGs. However, in reality development practice are still dominated by an anthropocentris. Pembangunan kita saat ini masih sangat anthropocentris. Artinya bahwa pembangunan dengan GDP itu selalu ya berfokus kepada kepentingan manusia. Dengan adanya industri dan lain sebagainya, ya, padahal itu menyebabkan ada beberapa side effect-nya, yaitu kerusakan lingkungan, ya. Still dominated by an anthropocentric paradigm that position nature as an economic instrument. Various development projects often result in excessive exploitation of natural resources, ecological conflict, environmental damage, and the marginalization of local and indigenous communities. For example, the food estate program in Papua and Kalimantan, nickel mining expansion in Sulawesi and North Maluku, forest conversion to oil palm plantation, and coal mining activities in various regions demonstrate that the orientation of economic growth still often ignores ecological sustainable. Apakah setuju seperti itu? Ya, mungkin teman-teman sudah mendengar juga kaitannya dengan berbagai kasus lingkungan di Indonesia, mulai dari ya food estate program di Papua, ya kemudian nikel di Sulawesi dan Maluku, juga kemudian penanaman masif yang berkaitan dengan sawit, ya. Tapi saya memang hukum lingkungan, tapi lingkungan yang tidak benar-benar yang lingkungan anti ekonomi, tapi juga tidak ekonomi yang anti lingkungan. Kita memang harus balancing antara kita membutuhkan pertumbuhan ekonomi, tapi jangan sampai yang merusak lingkungan. Karena riset saya terakhir untuk maksudnya kaitannya dengan disertasi saya itu berkaitan dengan pembangunan di Puncak Bogor, ya dijadikan sebagai puncak. Ada yang pernah dengar Puncak Bogor atau mungkin sudah ada yang pernah ke sana? Puncak Bogor, ya, yaitu itu berkaitan dengan dijadikannya puncak sebagai kawasan wisata unggulan nasional, tapi di sisi lain juga mengakibatkan degradasi lingkungan yang mengakibatkan kalau hujan Bogor 3 hari itu sudah dipastikan Jakarta banjir, gitu ya. Oke, jadi nanti harus ada balancing antara ekonomi dan this situation demonstrated a gap between the normative ideals of sustainable development and the reality of its implementation on the ground. Furthermore, various studies of sustainable development still tend to operate sectorally within the boundaries of specific discipline. Environmental law studies focus on regulation and law enforcement, and economics emphasize growth and efficiency, while environmental science focus more on ecological technical aspects. Consequently, few studies integrate ecotheology as a transdisciplinary ethical foundation capable of bridging various disciplines in building a sustainable development paradigm. Artinya di sini di Kemenak itu sekarang sudah ada yang namanya ekoteologi yang sebetulnya bisa menjembatani secara transdisiplin, ya, antara berbagai keilmuan, baik itu hukum, ekonomi maupun pendidikan. Based on this situation, this article aims to construct ecotheology as a transdisciplinary ethical foundation for sustainable development. It argues that ecologically just development requires that integration of law, economics, environmental science, public policy, and ecological spiritual values, so that development success is no longer measured solely by economic growth, but also by ecosystem sustainability and the well-being of future generation. This method kita lewat saja, ini saya karena menulis untuk artikel jadi harus ada metode. Ini nanti pendekatannya multidisiplin, ya, terutama kaitannya dengan normative, legal, and philosophical approach. In this question, a development paradigm that relies solely on economic growth also demonstrates limitation in explaining the complex relationship between human, nature, and the social values that develop within society. Environmental issues can no longer be understood solely as technical or economic issues, but rather as multidimensional issues involving legal, political, cultural, educational, ethical, and spiritual aspects. Therefore, development requires an approach that transcends the boundaries of existing sectoral discipline. In this context, a transdisciplinary approach is crucial because it allows for dialogue and integration of various scientific perspectives to produce a more comprehensive understanding of the root causes of problems and more comprehensive solution. Saya lanjutkan langsung ke sini ya. Jadi tadi kita kasih underlines-nya bahwa untuk transdisiplin ya, hubungan antara ekonomi, hukum, kemudian juga berbagai fakultas yang ada di sini sebetulnya itu bisa dijembatani dengan ekoteologi ya, dengan ekoteologi. Jadi a transdisciplinary approach need to be built on a foundation of values capable of guiding development towards sustainability. One such approach being an ecotheological perspective. Ecotheology offers an ethical and spiritual framework that position humans not as absolute rules over nature, but rather as a part of an ecological community with a moral responsibility to maintain the balance of creation. By integrating theological, ecological, and scientific dimension, an ecotheologically based transdisciplinary approach can be a path to reconstructing a development paradigm that not only furthers economic growth, but also ensure ecological justice, environmental sustainability, and integrational well-being. Oke, langsung saya ke bagaimana kalau misalnya tentang ekonomi. Ya, di sini ada yang hadir di sini yang untuk magister ekonomi ya. In the field of economic, transdisciplinary ecotheology offers a critique of the conventional economic paradigm, which tends to position nature as an object of exploitation for the sake of growth and profit accumulation. This approach encourages the emergence of an economic system that considers not only efficiency and productivity, but also ecological sustainability and social justice. From an ecotheological perspective, economic activity is seen as a part of human responsibility in managing God's trust in the form of natural resource. Therefore, the development of a green economy. Itulah yang biasa sekarang. Jadi bahwa di dalam bidang ekonomi, transdisiplin ekoteologi sebagai dasar itu bisa menjadi kritik terhadap ekonomi konvensional yang saat ini dilaksanakan, yang hanya mengejar yang kita sebut sebagai pertumbuhan ekonomi. Jadi kemarin sudah kita pelajari bahwa pertumbuhan ekonomi itu beda dengan pembangunan ekonomi, ya. Jadi jangan hanya yang mengejar productivity saja, tetapi juga harus keseimbangan. Makanya terus kemudian di sini lahir green economy. Mungkin nanti di dalam perbincangan kita selanjutnya apa sebetulnya itu green economy, adalah suatu kritik boleh dikatakan terhadap ekonomi konvensional ya, yang hanya mengejar pertumbuhan ya, sambil dia melupakan ya apa yang disebut dengan ekologi. Nah, Ini yang kita kenal dengan ekoteologi, suatu paradigma baru gitu ya. Ini dapat menjadi pendekatan terbarukan yang bisa dipergunakan oleh riset-riset di dalam bidang ekonomi ya. Untuk selanjutnya in the legal field, mungkin di sini ada yang syariah ya. Transdisciplinary ecotheology provides an ethical and philosophical foundation for strengthening environmental law. To that, many legal systems remain anthropocentrist, often placing environmental protection as a secondary concern to economic interests. An ecotheological approach encourages a shift toward a more ecological legal paradigm, one that recognizes the importance of maintaining the sustainability of all ecosystem components. Through this perspective, environmental protection is viewed not only as a legal obligation but also as a moral and spiritual responsibility. Ya, makanya saat ini termasuk saya juga itu, kalau dulu saya ngambil S3 hukum lingkungan tuh jarang yang ngambil, mungkin diantara kalau kita dulu program doktor 20 itu yang ngambil hanya 2 orang. Karena orang pasti perdata pidana ya. Tapi saat ini mana yang tidak membutuhkan environmental karena kerusakannya sudah demikian parah ya. Sehingga pasti hukum juga harus mengikuti hukum yang kaitannya untuk mendorong pembangunan yang ramah lingkungan. Dan terakhir ini saya harap sih jangan ada yang dulu pulang untuk education karena ini in education. Transdisciplinary ecotheology plays a role in building ecological awareness based on values and character. Education no longer serves merely as the means of transferring knowledge, but also as a process for developing environmentally responsible attitudes and behaviors. Integrating ecotheological values into the curriculum can foster a generation with intellectual intelligence as well as ecological and spiritual awareness. Through education, students are encouraged to understand that protecting the environment is not merely a social obligation, but also part of practicing religious values. This approach can be realized through the development of green school, sustainable campus, and environmentally based character education and And the conclusion, the global environmental crisis demonstrates the limitation of a development paradigm solely oriented toward economic growth. Although various legal instruments and development policy have adopted the principle of sustainable development, development practice is still dominated by an anthropocentric approach that positions nature as an economic instrument. The situation creates a gap between the normative ideals of sustainable development and the reality of ongoing environmental degradation. And the second conclusion, ecotheology has the potential to be constructed as a transdisciplinary ethical foundation for sustainable development. Through the integration of ecological justice theory, ecological economics, and Fritjof Capra's thinking on the web of life, ecotheology can become a meeting point for various disciplines in formulating more just and sustainable development policy. Therefore, future development needs to move beyond the economic growth paradigm to an ecological paradigm. Thank you. It's enough for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Nita Triana, for the insightful and thought-provoking presentation. And now I would like to invite the third invited speaker here, Professor Zulkifli M. Wadi. And firstly, I would like to introduce. It is my honor especially to introduce Professor Zulkifli M. Wadi. He is the Dean of the Institute of Islamic Studies at the University of Philippines. So Professor Wadi is one of the most respected of Islamic studies in Southeast Asia, with more than 3 decades of teaching, research, and public engagement. He has developed a multidisciplinary perspective that bridges Islamic studies, political science, Muslim societies, peace building, and contemporary global issues. And today, in this plenary session, he will present about religious diversity on peace, especially about Islamic experiences from Philippines in global dialogue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Zulkifli M. Wadi. Now the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so much, Miss MC, for the kind introduction. Apart from the keynote speech that we were invited to raise or pinpoint this morning, in particular, the organizer also requested me to present a paper or at least a perspective entitled Religious Diversity and Peace, Islamic Experience from the Philippines in Global Dialogue. This is just one part of our presentation, as I was also invited to deliver at least 2 lectures in, I think, in different classes on relatively the same theme. So I'd like to divide this presentation into at least 3 areas and highlight particularly today, at least in this presentation, the role of religious diversity and peace, Islamic experiences from the Philippines in global dialogue. To begin with, the notion of religious diversity in peace is very much entrenched in many parts of Southeast Asia, the Philippines included. Religious diversity, that is the presence of various religious culture, tradition, and values, has been shaped by waves of civilizational influences in the region. By civilizational influences, we refer to those influences that came from different civilizations and helped shape Southeast Asia as it was, as it is today. By civilizations, we refer, for instance, into those pre-colonial civilizations, like those influences coming from what we know as Funan, that is part of China, and partly can be considered as today as part of Indochina, where the old Champa kingdom was there. Then followed with 2 major civilizations, namely the Majapahit, although this came quite later, but even say, for instance, the earlier influences of Buddhist thoughts and philosophy. This happened, as you remember, in pre-colonial time or even in pre-Islamic period. The major influences in Southeast Asia, including that in the Philippines. That's number 1. Number 2, as you also know, the early peoples in Southeast Asia were mostly Austronesian and later became Polynesian. So they have their own dynamics in the sense that they live together, not in the context of what the colonial system that has been imposed, and that define eventually the cultural values and the religious ideas that develop even in pre-colonial times. In other words, Southeast Asia should be viewed as beneficiaries of these influences. So, in terms of the Islamic influences, this happened since the spread of Islam in other parts of the world, including China, and the gradual evolution of Islam's influence in Southeast Asia. All of these influences were mostly Eastern in origin. They came mostly from Asiatic tradition or Eastern civilizations. Thereafter, there's another influence that came, and this is the formation, the impact and formation of Christianity that came through Spanish colonialism, right? Changing, therefore, the Eastern character of earlier influences into something that is originally Western. In other words, the introduction of Christianity in the Philippines was the first manifestation of an influence that is not Eastern, but rather Western, because the perpetrators or the purveyors were mostly purveyors or harbingers of Spanish colonialism. So, the religious diversity that was once put in place, particularly in the region, was transformed into something that is confrontational. Because, note, the advent of Spanish colonialism signaled the beginning of new form of domination and control. Of course, using Christianity as a way in terms of promoting religion and Christianizing the early Filipinos. But earlier, we should note that around 200 years before the advent of Spanish colonialism, there was already the presence of Islam in mostly areas, these are southern Philippines. So, the confrontational character of Islam during the period of colonialism changed the character and form of religious diversity. For the first time, there was a kind of a resistance, 300 years of resistance from the Muslim parts in Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago against Spanish forces. And the notions of religious diversity has changed dramatically. You have to remember that after the fall of Granada in 1492, when there was the circumnavigations of the globe by Magellan, Magellan and his forces landed in the Philippines. And note also that that expedition was an extension of the crusade. That is with the Reconquista, that was when the Moors and other, like the Arabs and the Jews, were removed from Andalusia. Then that began the new conquest that was initiated by King Ferdinand and Isabella. In other words, the first confrontation of Spanish colonialism in Southeast Asia was in that part of the Philippines. First in northern Philippines, then later on in southern Philippines. So the religious diversity was disturbed dramatically, and it went on for century until the post-colonial period. By post-colonial period, this is the period when the nation states was already organized, and that particularly the Philippines was one of the first beneficiary of the nation-state system, as the Philippines was the first to become a republic or to declare independence in Southeast Asia. Again, in this period of post-colonialism, the character of religious diversity has shifted from that of a resistance towards a gradual assimilation. When Muslims began to be assimilated, at least in the beginning culturally and later on politically, into the Philippine nation-state system. So what I'm trying to emphasize is that religious diversity in the Philippines is reflected of that of the culture of diversity in major parts of Southeast Asia. But in the case of the Philippines, that was put into severe constraints because of distinct colonial and post-colonial experience of Muslim Filipinos in subsequent years. Then the relationship between Filipinos, majority Filipinos, and the Muslims as minorities continued even until the formations of the Philippine Republic. Hence, a new form of a relationship was forged in terms of not only accommodation and acculturation, but also in terms of giving recognition to traditional Muslim areas, including later on the granting of autonomy to Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago. This is in brief the evolution of religious diversity in the Philippines from pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial period. Now, there are many issues that impact on this religious diversity even recently. That is because there are many influences coming from the outside, especially that when Spanish colonialism has been entrenched, but after more than 300 years, another form of colonialism was established, and that is the American presence in the region. It was in this period where there was a gradual assimilation of Muslims in the Philippines into the new colonial system through the facilitations of the Americans. So note, in the case of the Philippines, the Muslim experience another wave, not necessarily of the earlier influences that we mentioned, but in terms of waves of colonialism that had been put in place for many years in that part of the region. And therefore, the notion of religious diversity has also been affected gradually since then and even recently. But in the 20th century, as Muslims grew in terms of their consciousness and they demanded for their own self-determination, that is, that they should have their own government, they should have their own homeland, then inevitably clashes and tension developed between Muslim minorities and the majority Filipinos, and it led into several encounters and wars between Philippine soldiers and who later became the Moro rebels. By the way, we call them Moros. The Muslims in the Philippines are referred to as Moros because you must remember that Spain was under the Moors, right? For more than 700 or 800 years. The Moors were a group of tribes coming from northern Africa, but who were able to dominate Andalusia for many years until the Reconquista. So that when the Spanish expedition came to the Philippines and they saw there were Muslim um, communities practicing precisely what they saw in Andalusia, so they also referred to them as Moors, although the term Moors was corrupted to become Moros, right? And by the way, who were first called to be Moros were not Muslims in Mindanao and the Sulu Archipelago. That is the southern part of the Philippines. Who were referred to as Moros were actually earlier settlements of Muslims in Luzon, like Manila. Hence, you have such personality like Raja Sulaiman, Raja Lakandula, Raja Matanda. They were already Muslim leaders who were transformed initially from those influences of the Majapahit, right, who were mostly Hindu in the earlier period, but in the 16th century, the area in Manila already transitioned to become like a nascent Muslim community. And it was these communities who were referred to as the Moros, right? Because they were the same like that of the Moors in Andalusia. So, but with the entrenchment of the Spanish government in Manila, eventually the Muslim settlements and communities were dissolved as, the resistance only was left here in the southern part of the islands. And by the way, in the earlier period of resistance, there were combined forces from such kingdoms like Brunei, Malacca, Terengganu, and many others in trying to resist colonial entrenchment in the Philippines. But it did not, it was not sustained, so much so that the Spanish forces was quite strong, were quite strong. Who were left standing were the indigenous peoples in the area, mainly in Mindanao and this part of what we call now the Sulu Archipelago. There were two major sultanates that were formed, the Maguindanao Sultanates and also the Sulu Sultanates in that part of the southern Philippines. So what we are saying is when you speak of religious diversity in the tradition of maintaining the Islamic presence in the area, these were constraints because of different colonial experiences in many periods. In recent years, a kind of a peaceful coexistence has been negotiated between the Muslim rebels and the Philippine government, so much so that they had been granted autonomy. That is, Muslims were allowed to govern themselves with their own fiscal autonomy, with their own relative control of the area, and in fact with their own autonomous government, but transitioning from a unitary type of autonomy towards a more decentralized type of autonomy. In recent years, this has been widened and broadened, and the rebels were integrated into the autonomous region, and they were allowed to run the autonomous government. And even until today, the negotiations, in fact, continued at least with certain rebel groups, but there are still rebel groups that are also in the periphery. What we are saying is that the notions of religious diversity has taken new form in terms of establishing structure, establishing government, although autonomous in character. So this has been the new form of relationship between the minority Bangsa, we call them Bangsamoro, Bangsa meaning they would like to constitute as a nation, not simply as like an ordinary identity as community. So much so that in the Philippines, we can now say that there are contesting identity formation as Filipinos, and there are also what we call as Bangsamoros. And this continued even until today. The relationship so far has been harmonious, and the autonomous setup seems to be working, although there are signs of cracks happening because of new developments, especially in terms of the maintaining control by the national government over the autonomous region of what is known as the Bangsamoro autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao. So I'd like to end my short presentation here on this at least background of the context as to why religious diversity has been constrained by various forms of historical experience from pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial period. So I'd like to end at least my presentation on this part, and I think in another class I will dwell more on that aspects of the impact of Islamic experiences in the Philippines as far as religious diversity and the call for peaceful coexistence is concerned. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for Professor Zulkifli, especially through this discussion, we have gained valuable insight into how religious diversity can become a source of mutual understanding, peaceful coexistence, and social harmony rather than conflict. And also, it should be our reflection, yeah, especially on the experience of the Muslim communities in Philippines, remind us to that dialogue, respect, and inclusive engagement are essential foundation for building sustainable peace in our increasingly interconnected world. And everyone, before we close this plenary session, we still have question and answer session. So for the benefit for all participants, may I kindly request you, especially here I invite two or three questions for the participants here or in the Zoom meeting. Please, I will invite 2 or 3 questions. The floor is now open, everyone. Silakan bagi ada yang mau bertanya. For the invited speaker here, Professor Nita and also Professor Zulkifli. Now everyone? Yeah, please. Oh, yes, please. Arabic. Translator, please. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Of course, it's okay. Check. And your name and also your study program, nationality also.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bahasa Filipin ya. Menjadi tausug. Tausug ka. Zambuan ka basilan. Alhamdulillah. Awon lang kami pangasuho. Pwede laki kata. Tungod sin biyawn kasi in Muslim Mindanao, even sin Pilipinos nasabot mo kain na. Biyaon hatungod bayan of cosmos. Hantara sin Barm, even sin Manila, habiyaon. Biyariin pag-apply hat shabab, biyasin kamo, hatungod sin mga teknolohiya, especially in madrasa, na kingatan tayo madrasa tahula, mga teknolohiya, bisan yan unta zero. So biyaon as kita, yari hawa hula, international student. So habya kamo, estudyante bihaon, biyarin na mo ma-apply in teknolohiya pagdatong na mong pahula, especially in madrasa or in mahad, in markaz. So that's it. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think you are directly asked for the invited speaker, Professor Zulkifli now.
So
Time is yours
mashallah,
too.
our brother speaks actually my own language. We came from the same place. He speaks in Tausug, the language of the Orang Suluk, in the Sulu archipelago, the southernmost part of the Philippines, which is very close to Malaysia and Indonesia. And he asks, what will be the role of students in terms of accessing new technology, new understanding, in terms of promoting Islamic education in Muslim areas in the Philippines. As you well know, the educational system in the Philippines has been defined by the national government in Manila, and to a certain degree, there is a need to have certain complementarities or some kind of a relationship between the traditional madrasa system in Muslim areas with that of the national educational system, right? And there has been bridging of this relationship these past several years, if not decades, as in fact the government established different Islamic institutions in the educational system. For instance, in my university, we have the only tertiary education that offers Islamic studies. Although there are many other Islamic studies units in Mindanao, around 10 or now around 11 institutions that also offer Islamic studies. But in the secondary, including primary level, efforts had been organized, particularly in integrating national curriculum with Islamic curriculum. Although there are still traditional madrasa in many Muslim areas, and these are run by families, right? Maybe the comparison would be like that of pesantren of Indonesia. And usually, the state of or condition of madrasa education is, comparatively speaking, is not at par compared to the national educational system, mainly for various reasons, right? Now, our brother is asking, what is the role of new technology in terms of upgrading the quality of Islamic and madrasa education, particularly in the Muslim area? This is a very good topic. I hope our brother here I'll try to challenge him. Probably when SAIZU can help him, maybe if you will be writing your thesis, are you writing your thesis here in, yeah? Maybe that would be a good thesis to write, brother, yeah? So that you can really articulate what are the ways to bridge this gap of the national educational system in the Philippines with that of the madrasa system in our place. Because I guess Indonesian model of education provides the way to be able to develop some kind of harmony or coherence between two supposedly competing system of education. You can see this in the way you experience here in SAIZU and many other universities, right? So I'd like to challenge our brother. Maybe if you will already be writing your thesis, you can write something about this. And if you need some kind of collaboration or some kind of research network, we are willing to help you. Or maybe your team here in SAIZU with that of the University of the Philippines, right? Or maybe other students may also develop the same thesis. So that way, when you graduate, you will not only graduate to have a degree, but you will be bringing something in return when you return to the Philippines, and you have something to start off in terms of implementing how to bridge the educational gap in the Philippines vis-a-vis the Muslim communities. So thank you very much, brother. Magsukol to na pangasubo mo, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the answer. Is there any other question? One more question, please. Or from the audience here in the Zoom meeting, you can also write down on the chat box here. Yes, please. Stand up, please, Mas.
Cik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In Indonesia, I'm sorry, I'm from UIN Sunan Kalijaga. I'm Syamil, and maybe because my English is not friendly, I think I will use Indonesian. Oke, saya akan menanyakan kepada Prof. Nita tadi, karena tadi sedikit menyinggung tentang kebijakan. Saya pikir selama ini pemerintah yang memiliki regulasi terhadap apapun di satu negara ini tidak seragam dengan apa yang dimiliki atau semangat dari grassroots ya. Seperti yang dipaparkan oleh Claudia Sis tadi, dia mention beberapa praktek ya yang berada di Jogja, yang di Sleman, terus yang ada di Bantul, terus juga di slide. Saya juga tadi nyinggung karena kebetulan saya dari Madura. Di situ ada pondok pesantren yang bernama Anukoyah. Ini sangat jadi rujukan di Madura untuk kesadaran ekologi. Pertanyaan saya, kenapa itu pemerintah tidak seragam dalam memandang lingkungan? Karena selama ini disadari atau tidak, pemerintah masih menyetujui, kalau kata Prabowo itu antek-antek asing untuk ya melakukan eksploitasi di negara di daerah-daerah tertinggal, bukan daerah tertinggal, daerah seperti Papua, Sulawesi dan sebagainya. Nah, maksud saya di sini diskusi saya ini tidak akan tercapai apa yang kita inginkan. Misal kita membaca Zone of Crisis punya Bruno Latour, itu dia mengatakan bahwasanya manusia hari ini itu terjebak dalam paradoks. Dia itu tergantung pada alam, akan tapi hari demi hari kita itu secara tidak langsung merusaknya. Nah, ini saya sepakat pada Bruno Latour, seorang sosiolog dari Prancis. Oleh karena itu, Saya pikir tidak akan ada titik temu ya kalau negara itu tidak memiliki kesadaran yang sama dengan apa yang sudah dipraktekkan oleh orang-orang grassroots gitu, akar rumput. Mungkin itu ya yang bisa ditanggapi sama Profesor Lita. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Silahkan Ibu Prof untuk langsung menjawabnya.
Baik, saya jawab juga pakai bahasa Indonesia ya, biar yang lainnya juga mengerti. Pertanyaannya bagus sekali, menarik sekali. Jadi saya langsung contohkan saja ya, seperti kaitannya dengan misalnya food estate di Papua misalnya. Kita sendiri bukan berarti anti pembangunan loh ya, karena sampai saat ini misalnya mau diapakan nih Papua nih, mau tetap seperti biasa, harga Indomie harganya 100.000 satu bungkus Indomie loh. Berarti kan harus tetap ada pembangunan kan. Nah tapi jangan tanda kutip pembangunan untuk Papua loh, tapi pembangunan bersama Papua gitu. Jadi kita tidak anti pembangunan, pembangunan bersama Papua. Bersama Papuanya itu baik dari indigenous lokalnya sendiri, dari apa namanya masyarakat lokalnya, termasuk juga di situ adalah dengan environmentnya gitu. Jadi tetap membangun food estate gitu ya, tapi jangan untuk Papua, bersama Papua masyarakatnya yang bertani itu, yang idenya pertaniannya seperti apa yang dibutuhkan masyarakat Papua, terus kemudian juga ya kaitannya dengan jangan langsung dipegang oleh tanda kutip misalnya kaitannya dengan korporat dari asing. Kalau memang benar mau membangun Papua gitu. Nah itulah yang selama ini memang sedang disorot, terutama oleh masyarakat secara umum maupun NGO gitu. Nah kita sendiri dari environmental law gitu ya, kebijakan-kebijakan itu bukan berarti kita itu sekali lagi anti pembangunan, tetap di Papua itu ya memang harus butuh pembangunan. Kalau tidak ada pembangunan ya tadi kita sebutkan tadi, berapa harga Indomie di Papua? Berapa mereka untuk mencapai seperti yang kita inginkan, misalnya harga air berapa di mereka? Mahalnya luar biasa, pasti harus ada pembangunan. Harus dibuat jalan dan lain sebagainya. Tapi yang tidak merugikan Papua. Kita jangan sampai mengulang lagi, boleh dikatakan report misalnya ya, yang hanya menguntungkan benar-benar orang boleh dikatakan korporat dari asing. Nah itulah yang tidak diinginkan. Oleh sebab itu maka sebenarnya pemerintah itu memang sedang menggalakkan itu semua ya, pembangunan dari semua segi, baik di negara-negara terluar, daerah-daerah terluar ya, tapi juga tetap harus meminikan pembangunan. Terus gimana Bu, gimana caranya supaya polisinya itu ya benar-benar lingkungan, inilah yang sedang kita galakan. Jadi jangan sampai kita pesimis bahwa itu nanti kayak ini kita nggak didengar, tetap aja. Itu dulu pernah ya di dalam undang-undang sumber daya air itu boleh privatisasi loh. Tapi disertasi demi disertasi, law breaking, law making, artinya meruntuhkan yang jelek itu ya, membangun sesuatu yang baru. Intinya akhirnya pasal itu ya hilang juga tentang privatisasi air. Sampai kita ke Mahkamah Agung gitu, ke Mahkamah Konstitusi, ke Mahkamah Konstitusi. Jadi memang harus bergerak gitu ya, harus bergerak. Artinya kita itu bersama-sama untuk kalau misalnya kira-kira ada yang tidak sesuai ya memang harus kita gerakkan, harus kita usahakan gitu. Tidak pesimis sih kalau saya gitu ya, tidak pesimis karena dengan kalau kita akademisi ya kita dengan berbagai tulisan-tulisan kita ya, NGO itu dengan berbagai gerakannya gitu. Dari mulai yang tadi Mas sebutkan tentang pesantren ekologi ya dan lain sebagainya ya, seperti itu ya. Tapi itu memang harus selalu, terutama mahasiswa ya harus selalu membuka mata sebenarnya apa kebijakan apa yang berkaitan dengan pembangunan di sini. Kalau ternyata apa sih maksud dengan pembangunan berkelanjutan? Bukannya pembangunan yang berkelanjutan loh, tapi daya boleh dikatakan di sini daya dukung lingkungannya bisa nggak? Karena jangan sampai pembangunan itu daya dukung tuh berhenti cuma sampai hari ini. Terutama raw materialnya habis, gimana mau membangun kan? Begitu dari saya ya, cukup. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih atas jawabannya. So everyone here, all the question. Oh, one more question ya. Okay, please, Bapak. Yeah. Before I close this plenary, please. One more.
Cek. Ini teman Filipina itu teman saya sebenarnya itu. Jadi kalau saya ngasih ceramah beliau jadi imam. Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya ingin pakai bahasa Indonesia biar bisa dipahami oleh terutama Prof. Nita ini. Oh iya, teman saya. Saya akan sampaikan pada pertanyaan pada dosen saya, Bu Prof. Nita ya. Kan di kampus juga kami sudah dikasih perkuliahan tentang bagaimana harus ada kolaborasi antara pembangunan ekonomi tapi juga harus dipikirkan lingkungan gitu ya, dan dicontohkan di Bogor. Kemudian Bu Nita juga pernah melakukan usulan ke Mahkamah Konstitusi dan berhasil. Nah, saya ingin membaca satu ayat, dan ini kayaknya setiap ayat itu pasti ada pelakunya. Seperti dalam surat Al-Baqarah kan, wa in qala rabbuka lil malaikati inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifah. Ketika Allah Subhanahu wa taala berfirman bahwa kelak akan aku jadikan manusia itu sebagai khalifah. Tapi ternyata kan malaikat mengatakan, qalu ataj'alu fiha may yufsidu fiha wa yasfiku dima. Kenapa engkau Allah akan menciptakan manusia yang kelak akan menjadi perusak di muka bumi dan menumpahkan darah. Nah, meskipun akhirnya Allah endingnya itu bagus sekali. Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamu. Sesungguhnya aku mengetahui apa yang tidak kamu ketahui. Nah, pada forum ini saya cenderung saya sudah menyimak dari tadi pagi ya. Saya cenderung punya usulan. Karena selama juga di organisasi masyarakat ekonomi syariah itu keluhannya sama. Keluhannya itu adalah politisi itu nggak terlibat. Jadi sekiranya politisi itu terlibat dari awal, ada ada kebijakan-kebijakan, itu saya yakin lebih cepat lagi gitu. Makanya usulan kami itu bagaimana para akademisi itu menggandeng politisi untuk merayu mereka agar perubahan itu segera terjadi. Lebih cepat itu maksudnya. Itu yang pertama berupa, biar saya tidak lupa, biar itu segera direalisasikan. Nah, kalau pertanyaan saya itu yang kedua ini pertanyaan teknis. Pertanyaan teknisnya itu, apakah sudah ada kolaborasi yang benar-benar antar disiplin ilmu untuk masalah yang sangat penting ini, karena lingkungan ini benar-benar sangat penting. Jadi pertanyaan saya itu aja. Pertama tentang masukan, kedua pertanyaan. Terima kasih Bu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Silakan langsung dijawab.
Mbak Desi can translate.
Alright. Ya, Prof. You just
dulu pakai bahasa Indonesia ya. Sekali lagi ini internasional, mix internasional and nasional ya. Iya, masukannya ya singkat aja ya, masukannya sih insya Allah kita ya nanti bisa dianulir ya di sini kalau masukannya. Nah, kaitannya dengan ini kolaborasi itu sudah banyak banget sudah kita lakukan collaboration transdisiplin for research ya. Misalnya contohnya law and economic ya. Nah, ini yang sedang lagi kami lakukan, nanti Prof. Ridwan, Bu Nakiyah dengan saya itu juga nanti ada mengkaitkan dengan orang kimia juga, kaitannya bagaimana air wudhu yang sudah di rescue ya itu bisa nanti dipergunakan lagi. Nanti Prof. Ridwan kan dari fikihnya ini bocorannya, dari hukum fikihnya, saya nanti dari polisinya, Bu Nakia itu dari living Qurannya. Itu sudah banyak ini disiplin. Makanya malah sekarang tuh kayak udah nggak begitu zaman gitu, penelitian sendirian satu ilmu aja. Malah sekarang itu justru yang lagi ini kan tuh kalau di Kemenag kaitannya misalnya dengan pendanaan riset, itu yang paling disukai itu yang kolaborasi gitu. Bagaimana merescue air bekas wudhu untuk jadi bagus lagi kan pasti kita butuh orang kimia gitu. Nanti baru dihukum itu boleh nggak? Kan kalau orang kimia mah cuma ngerapihin aja ya, bersihkan air. Tapi gimana caranya menghukuminya kan butuh orang fikih gitu. Banyak yang sudah bisa dilakukan termasuk juga hukum. Saya hukum lingkungan ini dengan orang lingkungan kaitannya kemarin riset tentang microhydro misalnya seperti gitu ya singkatnya karena udah jam.
Yeah, so we should see one things from the various perspectives today. We should to do that. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for the insightful question and the thoughtful responses. So today's discussion is already over, and I now respectfully hand the session back to the master of ceremony. All right,
Okay.
And may I conclude first? All right, so today's session, especially we highlight several important messages. Firstly here, the need to pursue sustainable development beyond economic growth, and also the importance of embracing religious diversity as our foundation for peace, and also our shared responsibility to care for the environment through both ethical awareness and also practical action. So we sincerely appreciate the valuable contribution to our distinguished invited speakers today. Thank you very much. And I will close this plenary session. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Give a warm applause, everyone. Thank you so much to Mrs. Desi Wijayati for facilitating today's plenary session. And we would like also to express our sincere appreciation to all distinguished speakers for the valuable insights, knowledge, and perspective that shared throughout the session. Before we conclude today's program, we will proceed to the photo session. So may I respectfully invite all the distinguished speakers and moderator also to kindly come down in the stage and take their photo in front of the participants and facing the stage. Okay, to the documentation session will be led by the documentation media. Meanwhile, we kind of expect everyone to stand up and take their position in the center so everyone could in a frame in the photo. Ayo, dipercepat teman-teman. Ya, oke. Semuanya untuk merapat ke tengah ya, yang di kanan maupun yang di kiri, agar merapat ke tengah lagi. Ya. Oke. Ya. Nggak apa-apa. Oke. Ya. Ya, Mas Tio, ayo Mas. Oke, yang belakang sudah oke. Baik. Silahkan dipimpin tim dokumentasi. Baik, thank you so much everyone for the cooperation. Let us once again give a warm round of applause for the meaningful contribution to the ICONTREES 2026. Dear ladies and gentlemen, and with that, we have come to the end of today's plenary session and the opening program of ICONTREES 2026. Thank you to all the distinguished speakers, moderators, participants, and committee members for making this event a meaningful platform for academic exchange and international collaboration. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik teman-teman partisipan presenters, jadwal sudah disebutkan, sudah di-share di grup bahwa kita break 1 jam. Nanti akan mulai parallel session di jam 1.30 di Rektorat lantai 4. Rektorat gedung sebelah lantai 4 untuk yang offline, sedangkan untuk yang online ya, untuk yang online tetap di link Zoom. Di link Zoom itu nanti akan ada breakout roomnya. Begitu ya. Kita break dulu, lunch sama sholat. Lunch sudah ada di luar, silakan bisa diambil.